sometimes I kind of go rogue and I just kind of start getting into other things, so be prepared for that.
That's okay.
All right, you guys, I am so excited for tonight's episode of Into the Industry because we have yet another one of my favorite people that I've worked with in this realm of the world. So for those of you who don't know, who are just joining us, Into the Industry is a show all about the pet professionals and what it's like for us to work with you and your pets and why we do it, and just all the fun, loving excitement that comes with it. So I am so happy to introduce Dr. Katie Kelly. Dr. Katie Kelly, where are you working at right now? Whereabouts are you from?
I'm in Denver, so moved here about a year ago, and I work in a private practice out in the suburb of Littleton.
Wow, so real leveled up from where I met you, huh? Denver's like one of the coolest places to be right now. Private practice. So tell us what private practice is, first of all, as opposed to what we were doing before. I mean, we weren't doing private practice, right?
No, we were corporate. So
okay.
Practices come in many ways, shapes, and forms. And I guess technically I'm in a corporate, but it's a very small corporate, so it feels more private. So essentially what happens is when it comes down to it, the decisions that are made tend to be made within the hospital.
Yeah.
So kind of our expectations, our settings, the numbers that we want to see per day are set by the managers and the doctors as a unit versus a kind of cohesive investigative team, which is with corporate. So you're going to have with corporate, you're going to have different aspects of, they have people who will go out and do marketing research, they'll do information on going through and looking up what should we be charging appropriately for this. While with us, we don't have that team. We have a very small unit of people who operate based on what our needs are versus a large group.
Yeah, nice. So what she's getting at is, it's kind of like a trickle down system where when you work for, like I worked for I call it a big box pet store because I don't want to label what store that was for because I do believe they are trying their best. But like I called a big box store, so what happens is there's people up at the top who never see the dogs or anything like that. Maybe they have seen a dog at one point in their life, but now they don't anymore. And they make all these decisions and it trickles down to us, the people who are working on the scene with the dogs, and we sometimes have restrictions due to that. So Dr. Kelly is saying is now in private practice, you guys get to make kind of the calls, right? That's awesome.
Yep.
That's
nice.
That's so awesome. Yeah, that feeling of freedom is really, really great. I know I struggled with leaving the security of like having an hourly wage in the retail store I was working at, and they were paying me really good, but like the values just didn't line up for me. And so that's really, I am stoked for you. That sounds awesome. Is Denver cool? Do you love it there?
I absolutely love it. I'm not going to lie, I miss Portland, but part of it is the group that Sean and I both worked with.
Yeah.
We're quite an amazing group of ladies.
Yes.
And boy Sean.
Yes.
But who was our manager.
Yeah.
But it's been a new experience for us. We've had a chance to kind of learn our new city. But it's definitely been a transition.
Yeah.
And kind of getting outside our comfort zone.
Yeah. So that's really good. You touching base on like the people we did work with were really special. And I hope they listen to these and reminisce on some of those moments. And you and I will talk about a few. But that like kind of touching on that. So you were what we call a baby vet when you, oh, that laugh. Oh, I miss that laugh. So the baby vet is someone who's fresh out of vet school, like just run and gun, gets their stethoscope, and boom, now they're a veterinarian. Yeah. So now that you've kind of evolved a little bit, and you had that prior experience with us, what was it like moving to a new team as well as moving to a new city. So Portland is a very like dog loving, dog, bring my dog everywhere, like, you know, ESA style place where dogs are like babies. And do you see that same culture in Denver?
I think it would be hard if I didn't,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I absolutely adore the owners who treat their pets like family. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that they need to be coddling them and that
Yeah.
they need to be in a baby Bajorn or whatever.
Yeah.
It means that they need to understand that their pet is a responsibility and a part of the family.
Yeah.
And thankfully, Denver has a very similar mindset. Their dogs go hiking with them. They go camping with them. They go to the breweries with them. They go on ice. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been line for Starbucks and there's a dog in the line behind me waiting for their puppuccino.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I don't think I can imagine a world where they aren't a part of your life.
Yeah.
So that's been one of the nice things is to this transition. That aspect's been easy.
Cool.
Being a little bit older, so when I moved here, I was 3 years out. I was a lot more comfortable in my skills and being able to walk into a team that has some growing to do.
Yeah.
I was able to provide more support versus having to be the support system.
Yeah.
Or not having to be having to be supported. So as a young baby doctor, the team that I had with Banfield was very, very strong in a way that they kind of embraced me and allowed me to be the good doctor that I didn't really know I was, but they did.
Yeah.
And allow me to grow. While now that confidence is there, and so it's different in the fact that I can walk in and be then an asset for the team rather than feeling like I'm kind of just getting my feet under me.
Yeah, and I remember a really specific moment where I saw like the light bulb go off in your brain and everything you had kind of trained for happened right in the moment. And, you know, it was a sad situation, but it was an emergency situation. So a dog came in from boarding. He was boarding at a place nearby. And he came in and he had something wrong with his back legs. And you were assessing him. And again, this was the first place you had worked at, correct? Where we worked together? Yeah. And you were assessing him and you did like the paw flip. And his foot didn't replace, like it did, his pad didn't go to pick up. And something, I watched it happen in real time because I was assisting you. Your eyes like turned to slits and you were just like, he needs to go to emergency right now. And I remember just being like, whoa, like, wow, it was a really powerful moment. And that situation, you know, he did. And the situation was pretty unfortunate from there further, but like you had this moment of realization where it was like, oh my God, I know this and I understand the urgency and like we need to move on it. And it was a really powerful thing to see in somebody's like career. So I think about that a lot, you know, in that day. But getting back to like, and that's so crazy that you mentioned, you know, there's this new team you have that you get to kind of advise and guide and lead. And that was a very funny thing in our hospital where it was just like, we were all kind of doing it to each other. We all had our moments, but we definitely knew each other's kind of strong suits in some points and were able to utilize those. So like, one of the big things I talk about on here is like the stress amongst all of us that we feel. And so like you have to work with a team. And one of the things that Dr. Brew touched on was like, when you're a veterinarian, you kind of have these two little assistants, 2 or 3 that are helping you depending on what's going on. And you guys kind of, they're kind of just like your little messengers to send and give information and get samples and things like that. They also get stressed. It's not like we just operate like robots. And so what is it like for you as a veterinarian? Like you have these 2 outside sources that are also helping you to come together to have a resolution. what is it like when they get stressed for you now? Can you see it? Do you call them on it? How do you navigate that as a veterinarian? I know some people in the past have gotten frustrated with me because I am an emotional being. But how do you handle that? I know you've always been very gentle and kind. So what would be your advice of someone who is in that position?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest thing is actually expressing your emotions and letting the people around you know when you're getting to a point. Like today was even a stressful day. I don't know if the moons were aligned or what, but a lot of our clients had stuff going on in their world that ended up reflecting as impatience or being either a bit rude or just not happy campers. And the people who are dealing with that generally are frontline, which is either the receptionist or my techs or assistants, and and right now we're all curbside, so I really only see these, or I really only talk to the clients on the phone, which is really hard for me. But in general, like when my techs are out there and getting this information and talking to them, our owners are out in their cars. It's been stinking hot too. And they're dealing with these emotions that are running through them, through these owners, and then being relayed onto our techs. Well, they're all humans, and so are receptionists. And a lot of it just comes with, if you're struggling with a client with what's going on, communicate that. Because ultimately we're here to all support each other, and there's no way that we will get through a day unless we're, the last thing we need to do is have an emotional blow up because you didn't tell me that a client yelled at you 20 minutes ago because it was hot outside. And I've definitely made that mistake. Like I mentioned, I'm very emotional in some aspects, and holding it in. I think that's really great advice, to just try, even if you feel like there's not really a big support system, you can just do what you can to advocate for yourself and just be like, hey, like I need just like a second, because man, I was there I think 2 years or so. I don't know. It's all kind of a blur, but it just really, like, when some days hit you and some people hit you the wrong way, like it can really take you out. And looking out for each other, and especially once you have a team and you learn each other's strengths and weaknesses, you also tend to learn their triggers. I don't know if triggers is the right word. That makes sense. Signs when they're stressed. Like I know that there were plenty of times, even at Banfield, where if we had a bad case or a euthanasia or something that wasn't a great situation, it takes its toll on you emotionally. And I sent many people for a 10-minute walk. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, it was like this weird unspoken thing where after a euthanasia, like you and the doctor would come out of the room, and for a few minutes, like those people just like wouldn't talk. Like it was this weird phenomena. Like it's not weird because the situation was awful. So in the deep dark world of that moment, sometimes people have to let go of their pets, and we are there with them, and we watch those emotions play out, and we Brew put it perfectly, where it's like that impacts us as well. We empathize. And then we'd walk out of the room, and there'd just be this like almost cloud around you of just like taking it all in and processing it, and giving that owner their space with what is going on in that moment. And it's really sad, but it is a powerful thing in that, everybody on our team was like, we have this at that time. We were always knowing when there was a youth, like we were very much advocates for the people in the room, and things that were going on. But I think the positive to take from that is just really supporting your team, and that's so awesome that you have taken on that role and that leadership. That's like the hugest thing you could do, because at some point, just like I was, some trainer could come in there who knows nothing about vet work. And I mean, it was just like being thrown to the wolves, because my world is just way different.
but I just was like, I want to get my hands on the dogs and like, you know, just work with them in any way I could do that. There wasn't really any doggy daycares where we lived in the area, and I needed to have the dogs around, and you know, you guys gave me a chance, and I was so grateful for that. So having a good team is a huge part. So kind of leading off on that, we'll kind of just jar into the next piece, which is like having a self-care system and having that be a part of your day in the field that we're in, as well as like just being able to establish a routine. So like you moved from, you know, Portland to Colorado, and then it was like you had to get a jive with the system and everything. And then we had chatted before doing this, you know, just checking in, and you said you were taking those steps. So how is that kind of establishing those things into a routine for yourself with such a dense schedule?
So I think what it's really comes down to is this, I mean, it's for anybody who's out there. Routine creates stability in your world, and especially in a world like vet med where you can't control the outcomes all the time. And we are so, especially veterinarians, but a lot of people who are in vet med are type A people, and it's really hard for us when we can't control medicine. We can do as best as we can, but you can't make something happen just because you will it, or it's not a machine, it's an animal, it's a living being. And so having that consistency in the world outside of it gives you that stability. So like recently, especially with COVID, I've been really, my outlet used to be planning trips, and that is taken away from me. So I had to take a step back and realize, hey, I need something and some new stability in my life that I can maintain, and that is going to be sustainable through this process. And so both Chris, my husband, and I kind of started into a new routine of where we're trying to like work on our health. So I am getting up earlier. I am not a morning bird, but I am getting myself out of bed.
I love that.
Getting a workout in before I go to work, and only on my days that I go to work, because I'm already getting up. Why not get up an extra hour early? And then by getting that in, I also have some Zen time after to cool off, to shower. And it's my time, and it's the time that I take before I have to go into what might be a chaotic day, what might be an easy day. But with the way that the situation has been right now, every day seems like it's chaos, because we're with the curbside, we're supposed to be seeing about a third the amount of pets. However, because of that, we're now trying to see where can we fit this pet and where can we fit that pet in. So usually walking into work starts with the questions of, we already have 5 phone calls of people needing to get in. And having that Zen moment before you get in, I walk in the door and I'm not overwhelmed by that.
Yeah, and I remember that feeling, kind of like there would be some days where I just feel like, oh man, I don't know if I'm up for this, and I would walk to work, so I had that whole like almost hour to process. 20 minutes if I was sliding around the snow there. But like really processing that, but also realizing like if I don't go in and help and be this extra set of hands, like something could pass away. Like having that extra, like just having that mindset of being like, I need to do this and I need to be able to be efficient at it. And I think the routine is huge, and touching on just like the point of the world that we're in right now, that's kind of this really amazing phenomenon that happened with COVID, at least that I saw in some aspects, is it happened. Everybody was in lockdown. Everybody was like, cool, we get to, like, at least on my end, I was like, I get to chill for however long. Cool, that's what I'm going to do. And I drank and I smoked almost myself to death. And can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, and there was this like moment of realization where I was like, I can't do this. I need some sort of routine. I need some sort of structure. And I too just kind of got on this warpath to like have better health, and just like got extreme about it in a way, so much so that I fractured my foot. It was crazy. It was like I was so healthy that I hurt myself. And it was a really funny process. But then like, okay, like you said, just like establishing this like routine and this schedule, and I realized it came naturally because prior working in the fields that we do, the schedule matters so immensely. And
It does.
you talking about like the people who just kind of show up and they're like, hey, like my dog, you know, I don't know, has a nosebleed, or like his ear smells weird, like can you look at it? What an incredible monkey wrench that could throw into a whole entire day.
It does.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about that. Like help just anybody understand like why that happens. And I mean, just what it's like to be like this singular unit that's supposed to help X amount of people having X amount of time. And when that's squished, what it does.
Yeah, so, and it goes along the lines too that a schedule helps to create the best care that we can give, whether it's to ourselves or to the pets. And at work, that's where that's important too. And it comes down to that allotted amount of time is there in order to be able to give you a full exam, be able to talk to you through those, what diagnostics need to do. And by taking that time to do that, we as a vet, we have that ability to sit down, focus just on you in the moment, and be able to, you know, you are the only one that we are working on.
Yeah.
While when we get those kiddos that have to run in, all of a sudden we're trying to figure out, okay, well, how are we going to fit this in? Is it, how are we going to have to, maybe not look at this other aspect of the body quite as well, because they're really just worried about the ears. And so it ends up giving you a, not less care, but it ends up rushing your care, which means that sometimes things that we may have caught in the appropriately scheduled time aren't caught that visit. They might be caught then at your annual, but at the same time, it's this balancing act of, we also understand that there are emergent cases that do need to be seen. And, when we're, as a vet, when we physically tell you that we cannot get you in, it's not because we don't want to see you.
Yeah.
It's because we want to do the best by, your pet and the client too.
And that's a really good point. Just the whole, like, it's not that we don't want to see them. It's like we physically cannot. And with the extra added, needed care with COVID, taking the precautions before and after, I'm sure you see each animal and things. I'm sure that frustration just totally erupts for some people who just expect, like, maybe I'll walk in here and I'll get my dog checked out and everything. And it is so crazy to me that people get so mad at the people who are just trying to help them execute the process. Like, if we can make it happen faster, by all means, tell us how. Because we are doing everything that we can to, hit all the marks. And if there's anything that I could just get to anybody's ears, it's respect the goddamn schedule for a veterinarian. And come at the time that you're appointed to. Realize how much time you have. So if it's important to you, maybe ask the receptionist when they're booking it, as well as be nice to the receptionist or whoever's on the phone with you. They are not doing it just for you. They're doing it for everybody's pets, and they're trying to organize it so that doctor, that veterinarian can do the best for your pet as well as anybody else's. And okay.
They're not the gatekeepers of health. They are there to do best by them.
Yes. Yep. So that's such an important thing for, I think, a lot of people are appointment based. And I think as I've kind of come into adulthood, everything in my life is scheduled. If I look at my calendar, it has this talk on here. It has when I'm going to walk my dog. The only thing it doesn't have on there is when I'm going to eat. And that's probably why I forget it so much. But I'm just going to show the camera what one of my days looks like. So I have a morning routine on there, and then I have all the dogs that I'm going to work with that day. And then it even has a night routine. So you could see there's not those big gaps are when I'm driving to and from work to see the dogs. that's the time, that's the free time I have for myself, other than when I block off the morning and night routine. And sometimes even into the morning, I'm like, I need to sleep. And then there's times where I need to edit all this stuff. And so it's like, if you have someone who is like really just needs to know what time something's going to happen, just respect that, like in all realms of your life. It's like just a nice human thing to do. Because especially with COVID going on, like you may be sitting around at home, but if we're in a role in an industry where, you know, it is pressing that we do be mindful of time and getting to see all the pets that we can, you know, take a step back if you're a pet owner and try to understand that. But I don't want to yell at you guys. I'm just saying.
And schedules are important. And then the other thing, too, that you have to consider with them is schedules are there to set a groundwork, and things can change. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, if your time schedule that you were scheduled for this 30 or 45-minute appointment or whatever it is, if for some reason we're not getting to you during that time, it's because something else has happened. And usually it's because someone else has a pet that is really not doing well.
Yes.
And it's not anything that we don't respect your time, because we know how important that is, because our time is important too. But it's also, you know, being flexible and being understanding.
Yeah. And it's just like, it just really comes down to like, you can't be 5 places at once. And sometimes there is that really devastating situation that you just have to stand by for a minute. And I think people, you know, we all love our pets so much that when we're worried about them, it creates this real big snowball of emotions. And those can flare that in ways that we maybe don't have total control of in the second, because we're just feeling them and we're responding to it. But if you're ever like feeling stressed, just kind of take a deep breath and be like, okay, like what is the severity and is it urgent? If you don't know, just ask all the questions that you can to whoever you can, who will offer some answers, and maybe guide you. But getting frustrated at a veterinarian or a vet tech is not going to make life happen any faster. Like, we only have all the minutes in a day, and we only have the amount of cells on our body to operate. And we cannot go into 5 different places at once, essentially.
And that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So I just kind of want to get back to the Colorado thing. So
yeah.
Do you know if there is a ban on any breeds in your area?
Oh gosh. I don't know if it's in Aurora, because we technically live in Aurora. We're kind of on a weird, actually we're technically in Centennial, but all of the suburbs pretty much are this weird melding thing out here.
Yeah.
And I do believe there's a pit bull ban in, I think it's in Denver, if not Aurora. Mm-hmm. And that is something that in Portland we didn't have. Mm-hmm. So.
God, that made my skin crawl. I mean, I knew the answer to that going into that question, but hearing it out loud, kills me. So talk to me a little bit about that. If you know anything just from being there, what the mindset is there. And, I mean, I could look right now how long it was established, but just kind of talk to us a little bit about, you know, do you not see any pits then because of that? Do you see people with pits who have them, who in the pit ban, they just couldn't give them up, and now they're kind of in hiding because of it?
So thankfully, most of the suburbs don't have the ban.
Okay.
That's the thing. So I actually see a lot of pit bulls at my practice. I actually have one client who had to move out of Denver because of their pit bull.
Yeah.
And that was
good
rough, because they ended up getting a citation and having all of this legality issue.
Man.
And so in the end, when they come to visit us, I know that it's a very, very sore point for them.
Yeah.
And it's because they have a great, great dog. And so that's where that frustration comes down to. One of my dogs is actually a pit bull, and not thankfully, I shouldn't say that, because I absolutely love pit bulls.
Yeah.
But she does not look pitty at all.
Yeah.
And so what we've always discussed is we know her because when we moved in, we had breed restrictions on our apartments. And we pretty much said that we're not going to let them know exactly what she is. If they do ask, we will tell them. And if it comes down to it, I will register her as a service animal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's just crazy. So I'm looking. It looks like it's an older law.
It is.
Roughly about 30 years, if I'm not mistaken.
And then they are working on reversing it. It went all the way, I believe, to the mayor's desk, and then it got rejected.
Yeah, it looks like it was. It's still enacted. Which is wild. So I don't know if you know anything about the training world, but I had this thought today. So, man, it's still just making my skin crawl. But so in the training world, we have two realms. There's positive reinforcement, and then there is balance training. And these two sides are at war right now. And the big argument is trying to ban tools, which is, our prong collars, our e-collars, and things that we may utilize to communicate with the dog. And we don't use these things on every dog, but we use them on some dogs who need very stern boundaries in order to survive. Yeah. And when I look at something like a pit bull ban, and these dogs are banned, and I just so badly want to ask, these trainers that feel that we should not have these tools that can better serve dogs and their people to live together, what it's like for them to ban a whole entire breed. And this is just me again ranting, but it's just, it's so unfortunate. And there are some things, every breed can have, it's bad eggs, but dealing with those as you go. But that's just such a wild, wild thing to me. So I just wanted to touch on that. And I'm so glad that you have is it a boy or a girl?
Both are ladies. You've met Mel, who's a breed healer, and she's actually the turd of the two.
So. Forever the turd. She was a turd then, turd now. No, but we love our ham Mel.
Yes, we do.
Such a ham.
She just has her attitude.
Yeah. So when did you get your other dog?
We got her about 2.5 years ago.
Cool.
And she is like mixed German Shepherd, Pit Bull, Lab, Chow, what else? Blue Heeler.
Wow, what a dog. Did you do the wisdom panel?
I did.
Oh, God. So you got all this stuff. Send me a picture. Just send me a picture through the Facebook thing, and we'll keep talking, but I just want to look at it and see her.
It makes sense. So
yeah. Did you get any training with her? Did you do any training with her when you got her?
So when we first got her, she was petrified beyond belief.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Oh my gosh. That's very interesting.
Yep. So she was one of those ones where really we could put a leash on her to take her outside, but otherwise she wanted nothing to do with us. She would go sleep in her kennel, because we had to get her used to her kennel. So her crate became her safe place. Yeah. That was one thing that I actually took from you, was having them have a safe place and using the kennel as, we eat in there. We have all of our treats that are not associated with training specifically in there. And that is still her safe place. Like when we leave to go to work, she will run into her kennel 5 times before I leave to go to work because she's so excited to go in it.
That's so wild. That's so great though. But where did you get her, and how old was she when you got her?
So when we first got her, she was about 1.5. Got her from Oregon Dog Rescue. Okay.
What was it like working with them? I'm just curious. And again, I'm just curious about your experience.
Yeah. So Oregon Dog Rescue, I feel like they did a really good job with the pets that they had. They tried really hard to match people with appropriate pets. When it came to their recommendations for like food and vet care, I was not as thrilled, but that's also because I have my own thoughts on things. Yeah. at that point we were starting to see the issues with the dilated cardiomyopathy, and they were pretty much saying in their things that all or not most dogs are allergic to wheat. And it's like, I'm over there saying no.
Yeah. And that is funny. And that's kind of one of the big talks I had with Dr. Bruin. It's not like a whole stay in your lane, but like we all have a role. And I understand that, you know, we as people who work in the vet field, or not in the vet field, in the industry of like dogs, like you are in the vet field, I'm doing training. There's someone else out there doing rescue, and then there's someone else out there doing like dog walking, and then there's someone else doing doggy daycare, like all these different avenues. Just because someone works with dogs does not mean they know all those encompassing avenues. And I feel that it's unfortunate that some people in those avenues want so badly to be that kind of know-it-all. And it's giving this misinformation.
No, I totally agree with that. I think even when I was like, I took a lot of my cues from you because I knew that you knew more about, you know, this training aspect. Mm-hmm. And when it comes down to it, if we have a pet who is struggling with training issues, I give the owners the recommendations that I've heard from trainers, and I'm like, but if you are still struggling, mm-hmm. please reach out to them. And you know, ultimately they're the ones who are good at this, and I am the one who I look at your dog and I can find out if it has a ward or a cyst.
Yeah. The ward or cyst gal. No, I'm kidding. And I'm the where should your dog, like, I don't know, pee when it's 8 weeks old gal. Yep. And those are in reality the roles that we play. And I do something similar and I was so drilled on this with where we came from, of just like, you know, people will ask a vet tech what they think of something, but you're supposed to just like make sure you coast them towards the vet. So there's always, you know, people are like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I'm very interested in that stuff. Like, I always love a good rash, and I'm like, let me check it out. Or like an ear infection, and I'm like, it's fine. I've talked about ear infections, so it's not the only thing. It's just the first thing that comes to mind, you guys.
Well, it's because we see a lot of them. Yeah. Honestly, skin stuff is like 60% of the things we see.
Yeah. So. And it's just like from working through that and then having Shorty and all these weird things that came up from her, I'm able to kind of like investigate and be like, like I can give you like what I think the severity of something is, but then I'm going to tell you to go see the vet. And I'm also going to tell you what might happen when you go see the vet. They'll probably take a skin scraping. They'll probably take it, like, I'll make sure I give that little download. But I certainly won't be like, well, obviously that is a kind of thing, because I don't know about tumors, and I don't know about, like, you know, I guess, like, just weird stuff that I don't know. I do not try to educate people on. I let the people who are educated about it educate them on. So on that topic, let's talk about this whole allergy and the diet thing. So it's so confusing. It's so confusing, because then there was this whole grain-free thing, and then there was those studies done that grain-free was like really, really bad. And it just, where does okay, I'll make it real clean.
Where does it all end?
Yeah, where does it all end? But where are these avenues now? So A, starting with the chicken allergy, B, starting with the grain-free, gluten-free situation, and then C, where is that study now? Like, I have since left a place when all that erupted, where I was working with people trying to help them find the right dog food for their dog generally. And it was big then, that whole recall on that stuff. So where is it now?
So at this point, let's start with allergies. Okay. So we'll start there, and then we'll kind of delve into the issues with the grain-free diets.
Okay.
And so what we see is, so allergies are just kind of like you would almost see in humans. everyone, a lot of dogs have allergies, and I would say 90% of them have allergies that are environmental allergies. So your grass pollens, your tree pollens, your dust, your cat hair. Yes, dogs can be allergic to cats. It does happen.
That's kind of crazy to know. I did not know that. That's awesome. Well, it's not awesome, but I'm so glad when I can learn something simple like that. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's pretty, when it comes down to it, that's generally where we're going to see most of those fall into. So that's why a lot of times you won't see vets reach for a different diet right away, because most of the time we can get away with a medication that's going to stop that itch. And there's a lot of new stuff that is out there.
Yeah.
And then if we're not seeing that response, then we might be in that 10% category that we do potentially have a food allergy. And with food allergies, they can present in a variety of ways. It could be stuff with the skin. It could be like a loose stool. I mean, it can come in many ways, shapes, and forms, but it's not something that we see super, super often. So most of the times it's not super high on my list. But when we do see them, 90% of those is going to be to your protein source.
Okay.
So it's kind of the rules of the 90s and the 10s.
Okay.
So, and that protein source, most diets are either chicken or beef. And so if you're going to have an allergy, it's more than to a food. It's going to be probably a chicken or beef allergy. And then we do fall into the 10%. Yes, there are dogs that are allergic to wheat. Yes, there are dogs that are allergic to corn. Yes, there are dogs that are allergic to, the dye from Red Sea or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It does. It happens just like to humans. You get people who are celiac. You have people who are lactose intolerant. But what we do then is we place them on this diet that ideally identifies or breaks down all of those proteins to a level, and then we can start adding things in to identify.
Yeah.
When it comes down to the grain-free, a lot of people, the reason why I think we were having such great success with it, with in quotations allergies, is because they were higher in fatty omega acids. And so the skin coats were a little bit stronger, and that allowed, because the way that these guys get allergies is through their skin barrier, not through breathing it in.
I am like loving all this right now. I just hope you know I'm so nerding out on this right now. This is amazing. Just keep telling me more, because I have questions after this. This is great.
So for a while there, even as the vet industry, I feel like a lot of us, and I graduated when we were starting to figure out the grain-free issue.
Yeah.
So I wasn't involved in it, but I was, for a long time there, the vets that I was working for when I was before pre-vet school were saying, hey, these grain-free diets can sometimes help with, if we are itchy or things like that. And then we were seeing success. But more and more, actually one of my classmates ended up about a year out of school, was in a residency for cardiology, and was starting to see these changes. And she point blank put onto our Facebook page for ISU, which is where I went to school, that guys, we're seeing something. We don't have all of the studies behind it yet, but there seems to be a correlation. And then within the next year, the studies were starting to be promoted.
Yeah.
So pretty much what's come.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So pretty much what's come down with it is that there is something either in the grain-free foods or missing from the grain-free foods that is causing what's called dilated cardiomyopathy. So enlargement, or where the size of the heart is getting larger.
Wow.
And so eventually we will ideally isolate where it is, but we haven't quite yet.
Yeah. And so when the heart gets larger, what does that cause? Does it cause murmurs? Does it cause fluid to get in there? Like, what is it? How does it display in a pet?
Yes. So a lot of times they're asymptomatic, so you won't know.
All right.
But what eventually happens is, as things become larger, they don't pump as well, and it could lead to heart failure.
Okay. And that would just happen like randomly, you wouldn't know?
It can. Okay. Sometimes you'll see murmurs first.
Okay.
But sometimes it just goes to, it just goes.
Yeah. And there's a size correlation with dog. Is that correct? As far as the studies have gone? Is it all across the board, or is it larger dogs, smaller dogs that we know of?
So,
Have those studies not been done yet? Is it still vague?
it's still pretty vague.
Okay.
Most of them that we see, we know that like golden retrievers are more predisposed to this process anyway, and boxers a little bit too.
Yeah.
So I think that they've been overrepresented. Just because they're already kind of not on the path for it, but they're just ones that we would think could get it potentially have it anyway.
Yeah. Wow. That's all. I mean, that's all really interesting stuff. I just get the people who are like, oh my God, they're allergic to chicken. Like, chicken is the enemy for a lot of people. And it's just weird to me because a lot of prescription diets are chicken, and they're like lots of corn and barley, and there's this huge contradiction. And it's like Shorty, my dog, she is sensitive to food. She had pancreatitis at one point, so she's, and I don't know if you were there the day that she ate a bagel chip or if that was Dr. Casey. I'll have to throw that photo up on the screen. My dog has really bad sensitivities to food. And so it was always a struggle finding something that would work for her, especially after the pancreatitis. And so for a while I was feeding her the grain-free stuff because that worked. It was the only thing she wouldn't get sick on, and her skin wouldn't go absolutely crazy. And I just did what worked for her. And then that started to go south. So then I was given a prescription diet, and I for so long I was giving her like a salmon, and it was grain-free, and she was getting older, but I couldn't feed her the senior version. She would start to have issues with that. So I just kept with the regular adult food. And then when she had issues with that, I was like, okay, I'm really at a loss to what to do. And, I got a prescription for one of the prescription foods. I was so scared to try it, but it works, and it's chicken. And I'm a bad pet parent. I don't know what it's called. I just did what the doctor told me and tried it because I was pet parent. Yeah. And so I just was like, and it works. And it's just interesting how it's like, it's not the chicken like I really thought. It was maybe something in how the food was made or something like that. Do you think plays a role?
I think it can. I think that every dog's digestive tract is different. And there are dogs out there that if they have struggled with all of these other foods that do have grains in them, and they find a grain-free food, we educate them on this is something that we may not want to be on long term, but at the same time, if we have gone through trials and errors, and it is frustrating as an owner when you can't find something that you feel fits right. And if you finally find something and it happens to be a grain-free, it's just one of those things of educating and being like, sometimes we have to look at the dog as a dog and not as, they're a part of all of these other dogs. Every dog is its individual being, and we have to consider that.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, we do have some dogs who are just a little more sensitive to stuff in other diets out there. And a lot of those kind of higher protein foods, which are mostly grain-free, they are very, very rich. And some dogs handle it great, but I also describe it in a way as when you're eating that high of a protein, that's like you eating steak for lunch and dinner. Some people can do fine with that, and some people, that's going to screw up their GI tract.
Yeah. And that makes sense. And that makes a lot of sense. We're kind of closing up on our hour here, but there's a few things I do definitely want to just kind of loop back to and touch on, and then I know you have questions for me. So really, really fast, looking at the pet allergy thing, and if a dog has skin issues, you mentioned the omega fatties being something that was helping in the grain-free, but then there was the discoveries with grain-free. So where can you get those omega sources from that may help a coat? Let's say if it's seasonal, like Shorty, being sensitive to the world, is a seasonal allergy dog. So sometimes I'll give her like a little bit of coconut oil or something. Is that good? And I'm just kind of like, yeah.
Coconut oil, I don't recommend it.
Okay.
You're just going to end up getting slimy dog all over you because they like it, but we don't see great results. It doesn't hurt them enough, so that's a good thing. But something as simple as fish oil. Fish oil is great. I would talk to your vet about your specific dosing before you do that, because there's a lot of different things that are out there.
And that's totally true. And then kind of jetting over to another topic. Well, why don't I go ahead and ask me your questions that you have for me first? Because I mean, if you heard the Dr. Bruce situation, I can go off on a tangent.
So I know we definitely kind of was all over the spectrum today.
Yeah.
I think one question that I had for you was, when it comes time, for us as doctors to recommend a trainer, because we were talking about staying in our lane, which, we get some training, we get some information, but ultimately you guys know what's great. What should we be looking for in a trainer who we recommend? So not just some Joe Schmo off the street, like what should we be expecting from those or what should we expect from the people that we recommend?
God, that's an incredible question. And it's such a powerful one, because the training industry right now is dangerous. It's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous place for pet owners. And it's a dangerous place for information to get skewed. So here's what I would recommend. I would recommend thinking about what your goals are first. So you would ask that client, what's your goals with their dog? They're going to give you a few things. So they're either going to have a puppy that needs potty training, that's biting, that's mouthing. You're going to recommend that they see a positive trainer, positive reinforcement. When they are shopping for that trainer, they should see that the positive trainer never uses words like never do. Well, obviously there's going to be like never hit your dog or anything like that.
Yeah.
But someone who blatantly puts down and talks shit on tools, I would say, is a huge red flag. Yes, they may be passionate about it, but they also are probably fairly uneducated about it, or don't work with the dogs that need it and don't experience that. And why that can be dangerous with someone who has a puppy, because they may have like a very large breed, powerful dog. And right now it's a puppy, so they just need foundation work. They just need positive reinforcement stuff. They just need guidance. And that, I think, most generally any trainer can do. But they have to be mindful to watch for people who are gonna talk shit on other trainers, and they need to watch out for that. Then on the other spectrum, if it's someone who's dealing with like really bad separation anxiety or anything like that, they're going to want a behaviorist, which I think maybe you may know, because behaviors deal more with like medication and things like that. Trainers are like therapists, and behaviorists are like your psychologists or psychiatric whatever that is. See, I don't even know the word for it in human terms, because it's like it's out of my realm. So trainers being like therapists, you have your child psychology doctors, right? And then you have like adult family, like they have different avenues. So if you have a dog that's having like severe separation anxiety, it's causing damage, it's biting, it has a bite history, so it has aggressively bitten somebody, they may need a behaviorist. But if you have a dog that is an adult dog, it is jumping, it is, barking at strangers, it's reckless on the leash, it's pulling you into the street, it's just all over the place, it has no boundaries, it's going crazy. They need someone who's going to do some behavior modification. That's what that person needs, just a little bit of like, guidance there. And depending on the severity of that case, then they can go see a positive trainer, but they can also understand that it may take longer for those issues to be resolved. In my world, there's something called balance training, which is what I do. And it's where you can kind of set a boundary for a dog, and you can tell the dog, no, don't do that. And the issues tend to resolve you give the dog structure and things resolve pretty quick. And there's some really heated arguments in that layout, but I would ultimately give them that basic information, and then it is up to that owner, when they think about their goals and their expectations of their dogs, to listen to what this trainer has to say, to, you know, ask them if they've worked with a dog like their dog before. They don't need to see credentials. They don't need to see anything like that. That stuff doesn't matter. What matters is experience, as well as being able to work at that person's pace and that dog's pace. So you don't want the trainer that's going to make the dog do something, but you want a trainer that's going to encourage and push the dog to be better, but at the dog's pace, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because if you go and throw a puppy at a balance trainer who's just kind of like really about tools and things like that, it's probably not going to be good for the puppy's foundation work. If you give an like super reactive, aggressive German Shepherd to a positive trainer, it's going to take 5-6 months for the dog to resolve an issue that you could resolve in a couple days. And again, somebody listening is going to have very strong opinions on that. But again, I've been doing this for quite a while, and I was a positive trainer for about 9 years in my career, and it was ineffective in some realms. And so that's why I chose to go the route that I did. But that is a phenomenal question. That's a great question. I love that question. Do you have any others?
Well, I think you actually ended up kind of answering the other ones on, you know, what are credentials should we look for, which means none. It was more about the experience, which is perfect.
Shopping for a trainer is a lot like shopping for a therapist. There are going to be a lot of different styles. There's going to be a lot of different personalities. You're going to get a lot of crazy nutcases. You're going to get a lot of really cool people. And it's just about finding someone who jives with you and your needs. There are some trainers who believe that their training is the way to go, the best way to go, and everyone needs to listen to them. And that's not appropriate, because these are people's pets. They're not ours. Our expectations don't matter. What matters is our education and the ability to help them reach their needs. So I think, just being very mindful that, like I said, the training industry is really dangerous, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing now. To help everybody out as best I can. Yeah. So I have one last, it's kind of a two-parter question for you. And then I think we will close out there, but I definitely would love to have, I'm just so enjoying these, and anybody who wants to talk to me about dogs and anything, I'm just about it. So if you'd like to be on again sometime, definitely we can do that. Or if you have any friends, or, you know, if you know someone who's been affected by the pit bull ban, I'd really like to talk to them. So I know you guys aren't going out and doing COVID stuff right now, but if you know someone who has been, just please give them my info, and I would really love to talk to them about it and their perspective. I think that'd be really, really, really interesting. So my last two-parter question is, it's going to go down and it's going to go up, okay?
Okay.
So I want you to tell me about the hardest day in your career so far.
So the hardest day that I have probably had was,
hardest case, I guess I would say. Something that was just really, really tough.
I think I know that there's a lot that have stood out. Recently, we had a case that we worked up, and then we never really got a diagnosis. And at a certain point, we had to consider quality of life on that pet.
Yeah.
And just all of the time and the energy that you put into that, between the clients and the pet even, and then us, and still not having an answer.
Yeah.
And then when things just get so bad that you have to really assess what's, you know, is there a gift that we can give that unfortunately means that this pet is not going to be a part of this world anymore.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I can, you know, obviously not to that much of an extent, but I can relate to that when it comes to working with a dog and working with a client, like really trying to figure out the things that makes them tick. And especially in my younger part of my career, where I was just like, I felt like I could help anybody and anything. And then finally hitting that point where it's like, okay, it's out of my scope. Like at first that was a really defeating feeling, but now it's as I start to realize it, it's such a powerful feeling, because I'm just like, okay, I'm giving relief. in a way that I know how. Like maybe I can't fix it, but at least I'm giving some sort of relief. And in that moment, you were giving the relief to the pet, which is amazing. You know, you could poke and prod and try to figure things out and all that stuff, but is it best for the pet? And you know, sometimes handing off, like for me, cases to another trainer that I think can deal with it better is the best relief I could give to owners and their pets, because I don't want to waste anybody's time. I sure as hell don't want my time wasted by people. Exactly. So I don't want to do that to somebody else. And you know, that is good that you kind of made that call to help that pet out and, you know, just give him a safe space to rest. So, you know, good on you there. I know it's tough. And then lastly, tell me about one of the best days you've had recently that made you just feel like this is why I do what I do.
That's the thing is, like, I feel like after a certain point, so many things melt together, but you remember feelings more. And I think, was it Maya Angelou said that you will maybe not always remember details, but you remember the way something made you feel.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, the days that I remember walking out and being the happiest were the days where I felt like I did well, either maybe not always 100% by fixing a pet, but by creating a relationship with that client so that they and their animal can walk out and be happier than when they walked into the clinic.
Yeah.
And having the days where you don't have either a disgruntled person or someone who is dealing with a hard case, but where ultimately you can provide relief in, if not ideally fixing everything. But then the other thing too that comes with it too is the team. If you just have a moment where it's like, today's going good, today we have done the best that we can, and you walk out and you're like, every single pet that we saw today, we cared for and we did a good job by.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I just remember some of those moments, like when we had worked together, where like sometimes we'd have some really, really bad situations just spring up out of nowhere. But somehow at the end of the day, there was always a puppy that needed to be vaccinated.
Oh, always the puppy.
And it was like someone would walk in the back and be like, look what I got. And we'd look over and there'd just be this tiny little squish. And we would just all be like, whoa, let me hold it. Let me look. And it's just like being able to have that moment where it's like, oh, this thing, it is so precious. And the dogs and you know, I don't have a big affinity for cats, but now I have met a few special cats in my life. Talking to you, Lou Cat, wherever you are. And but when it comes to dogs, like there's just this honing device that just like I understand them and their world. And when I see a little baby puppy, I'm just like, man, it's either going to go really good or it's going to go really bad. And it's kind of up to, it's up to all of us, this ecosystem of the person and you and me and anybody else who kind of comes across that dog as their life goes on. But there's just nothing more precious than a little baby pup.
Nope. There's so much future ahead of them.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Kelly, I have really enjoyed this talk, and I hope we get to do it again soon. And for all of you guys at home who feel like you got something from this, please share this information with anybody you might think it might help, which is honestly anybody who loves their dog. Dr. Kelly, thank you so much for being on, and I hope I get to talk to you soon. And send me a picture of your pup, will you?
I will.
Okay. Well, I hope you have a great night, and I will talk to you soon.
Okay, bye, Sean.
Bye.